I have two things to say. The first thing is that when the U.S. Went into Iraq and Afghanistan, we didn't know what was going on. The American people didn't really know what was going on. There was a huge demonstration of 250,000 here in San Francisco to say, don't go into Iraq. But I would say, especially because the media was hyping up the war and lying about the justifications for the war that the US government was giving about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction, that most of the people were not aware of what actually was going on in the country, in Iraq. But Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and Chelsea Manning showed us exactly what was going on. That the war, the bombing, was against civilians, against journalists, against children. That was an amazing truth that was told by Julian Assange, by WikiLeaks. And it educated anyone who could hear about it and listen to it, which probably wasn't too many of the American people because the media kept lying. But it educated all of us. It educated a large anti-war movement. It educated people who were willing to question what the US government was doing. I can't think of a more courageous, exemplary act than to tell the truth about a vicious war against people, against civilians in Iraq with no justification whatsoever. And I think because we don't have a draft and many people volunteer for the military without knowing what they're getting into, some of them are victims and do not see other opportunities in their life and think that if they serve in the military, they'll get some perks from it, they'll get some education from it. I think that when people like that, not gung-ho patriots necessarily, but people who don't know what's going on and see the military as some kind of alternative, when the truth comes out about war crimes that the US government is committing in all of our names under false pretenses and lies, I think perhaps some people who would have joined the military did not join the military. That is a tremendous accomplishment. So I have nothing but praise for WikiLeaks and Julian Assange for telling the truth, showing the collateral murder video that Chelsea Manning gave to WikiLeaks when she couldn't get it published in any kind of mainstream media that she tried to get it published in. She sent it to WikiLeaks. Those are really admirable acts, and we owe tremendous debt to Chelsea Manning and to Julian Assange for truth-telling. No good deed goes unpunished in this society. Truth-telling is not something that is valued. People like Kissinger win the Nobel Prize. War criminals are the ones who are built up and admired by the wealthy and powerful who run this society. But we have the duty to tell the truth about who real heroes are, and telling the truth about war. There's nothing greater that you could do. In this society, our government actually arrests and jails people for leaving water in the desert for migrants. That's illegal. But telling the truth about war crimes, that's beyond the pale. I have one other thing I want to say, which is that an anti-war leader in Japan named Fumiaki Hoshino. He was a student leader in the Vietnam anti-war movement in Japan. They were working, the Japanese student anti-war movement, this was in the 70s, was working against the US using Okinawa as military base for bombing, for napalm bombing of Vietnam. So they were engaged in a militant mass struggle against US war crimes back then. Hoshino was framed because a police officer was killed in the fighting around in one of these demonstrations. Hoshino did not kill him. There wasn't evidence that he did, but he was in prison for over 40 years and he was denied health care. Japanese prisons, I don't know if this is for everyone, but for political prisoners like Hoshino, who was housed in a far northern part of Japan where there's no heat in the prison in the winter and no cooling against intense heat in the summer. Terrible conditions, no health care. He just died after being operated on for liver cancer, which the prison never treated him for in a timely way. He might have survived if he had had the care that was required for something like that. It was a survivable disease, but the prison system killed him. We have to say that. The prison system killed him. The prison system in Britain is denying proper medical care to Julian Assange. And Mumia Abu-Jamal, we all know who he is, America's foremost political prisoner. He is in a serious medical emergency caused by the prison, because a lot of the problems he's suffering right now are due to the prison totally ignoring the fact that for many years, actually for decades, he had hepatitis C. Totally curable disease, but they didn't diagnose it, they didn't treat it until just 2 years ago. He's cured of the hepatitis C, but all the things that come with it, like cirrhosis of the liver, that's still there. This is another person who he's in danger of being killed by the prison authorities. This is the treatment of prisoners, political prisoners all around the imperialist world, and we have to oppose it.